As early as 1971, the year in which the UAE became an independent country, the first president of the UAE, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, had referred to Israel as the enemy. In November 2015, Israel announced that they would open a diplomatic office in the UAE, the first time in more than a decade that Israel had an official presence in the Persian Gulf. In August 2019, Israel's foreign minister made a public declaration about military cooperation with the UAE amidst rising tensions with Iran. In the months leading up to the agreement, Israel had been working in secret with the UAE to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. European news media reported that Mossad had discreetly attained health equipment from Gulf states. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, reported at the end of June 2020 that the two countries were in cooperation to fight the coronavirus and that the head of the Mossad, Yossi Cohen, had traveled numerous times to the UAE. However, the UAE appeared to downplay this a few hours later by revealing that it was merely an arrangement among private companies rather than at state level. The move also comes following the termination of the Iran nuclear deal by the Trump administration and increased Israeli concerns over the development of an Iranian nuclear program, which Tehran denies. Currently, Iran supports different factions in proxy wars from Syria to Yemen, where the UAE has supported the Saudi-led coalition against the Iran-aligned forces fighting there. In recent years, the countries' informal relations warmed considerably and they engaged in extensive unofficial cooperation based on their joint opposition to Iran's nuclear program and regional influence. The agreement is also officially called the Abraham Accord, in honor of Abraham, the patriarch of the three major Abrahamic religions of the world: Judaism, Islam and Christianity. On August 13, 2020, the UAE Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Anwar Gargash, announced the UAE's agreement to normalize relations with Israel, saying that his country wanted to deal with the threats facing the two-state solution, specifically annexation of the Palestinian territories, and urging the Palestinians and Israelis to return to the negotiating table. He indicated that he did not think that there will be any embassy in Jerusalem until after there is a final agreement between the Palestinians and the Israelis. According to U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board and on a broad range of areas including tourism, education, healthcare, trade and security. A joint statement issued by Trump, Netanyahu, and Zayed read, "This historic diplomatic breakthrough will advance peace in the Middle East region and is a testament to the bold diplomacy and vision of the three leaders and the courage of the United Arab Emirates and Israel to chart a new path that will unlock the great potential in the region." The UAE said it would continue to support the Palestinian people and that the agreement would maintain the prospect of a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. Despite the agreement, however, Netanyahu stated that Israel's sovereignty claim to the Jordan Valley was still on the agenda and only frozen for the time being. Zayed tweeted that, UAE and Israel also agreed to cooperation and setting a roadmap towards establishing a bilateral relationship. It is expected that the peace accord will be signed in the White House in early September. Prime Minister Netanyahu said there was no change to his plans to annex parts of the West Bank if it was approved by the U.S., but added they were on temporary hold. Tel Aviv-Yafo Municipality Mayor Ron Huldai congratulated Netanyahu on the double achievement of peace with the UAE and shelving of plans to annex parts of the West Bank. The head of the Israeli settler group Yesha, David Elhayani, accused Netanyahu of betraying some of his most loyal supporters and having deceived 500,000 residents of the area and hundreds of thousands of voters. Oded Revivai, the mayor of Efrat, a settlement of more than 9,000 residents south of Jerusalem, supported Netanyahu, arguing that the Israeli agreement to postpone the application of Israeli law in the Jewish settlements in Judea and Samaria is a fair price to pay. Palestine Liberation Organization (PLO) official Hanan Ashrawi lambasted the agreement, writing on Twitter that Israel got rewarded for not declaring openly what it's been doing to Palestine illegally and persistently since the beginning of the occupation. Fatah accused the UAE of flouting its national, religious and humanitarian duties towards the Palestinian people, while Hamas said it was a treacherous stab in the back of the Palestinian people, and claimed the agreement was a free reward for Israeli crimes and violations against the Palestinian people. The Palestinian Authority recalled its ambassador from Abu Dhabi. Yusuf al-Otaiba, the Emirati ambassador to the United States, issued a statement extolling the agreement as a win for diplomacy and for the region, adding how it lowers tensions and creates new energy for positive change. Bahrain, the first Gulf Arab country to comment publicly on the announcement, congratulated the UAE leadership and welcomed the deal as steps to enhance the chances for Middle East peace. The government of Oman also publicly supported the agreement, which it termed historic. Iran's Tasnim news agency said the Israel-UAE deal was shameful. The Iranian Foreign Ministry condemned the deal as a dangerous stab in the back of Palestinians and Muslims, terming it a shameful act of strategic stupidity by the UAE and Israel that would only serve to strengthen the axis of resistance in the Middle East. The Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi welcomed the deal, saying that he praises the party's efforts to achieve prosperity and stabilization in our region. The Turkish Foreign Ministry condemned the agreement, saying history and the people of Middle East would neither forgive nor forget what UAE did, and that it was a violation of the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative. President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan later stated that Turkey was considering cutting off diplomatic relations with UAE in retaliation. Kelly Craft, the United States ambassador to the United Nations, celebrated the announcement, calling it a huge win for President Trump and for the world, saying that the diplomatic ties show just how hungry for peace we all are in this world, and how Middle Eastern countries are all understanding the need to stand firm against a regime that is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism, Iran. Jared Kushner, a senior advisor to the President of the United States, said that the deal would make the Middle East peaceful and hopeful, which would mean less American troops would need to be deployed in the region. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson lauded the agreement as a pathway to achieving peace in the Middle East and also praised suspension of annexation of areas in West Bank. British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab and French Foreign Affairs Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian voiced similar sentiments, with the former adding that it was time for direct dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians, while the latter stated that it created an opportunity for resuming the talks. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres welcomed any initiative that can promote peace and security in the Middle East region. According to Lisa Goldman, co-founder of Plus 972, Netanyahu never intended to annex parts of the West Bank, but the UAE is claiming a diplomatic victory in exchange for what's probably a lot of very valuable security cooperation from Israel. All on the backs of Palestinians, as usual. According to Eli Geronimi, analyst at the European Council on Foreign Relations, the agreement is unlikely to be a game-changer for Iran, since the latter had long assumed that the countries have had secret relations for a long time.